Hey there, friend, and welcome to another episode. So, this episode is actually one that I didn't plan on doing. It wasn't in my original schedule of what I had planned for this first season, but it kind of happened by chance. And I'm really excited about it because it's a conversation with Dave Gerhardt. Now, if you come from or are somewhat in the B2B marketing world like I am, Dave Gerhardt is a pretty big name and has been for a couple years. Currently, he's the founder and CEO of Exit 5, which is a really cool community for B2B marketers that I know lots of good people who are a part of it. And before that, he's been pretty popular on LinkedIn for his thought leadership all around marketing. And Dave wouldn't mind me saying this because we talk about it in the episode, but I didn't really know him. I just knew his persona. And I assumed he was kind of your typical tech dude, right? All about tech and marketing. And a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, a month ago from when I'm recording this, I got invited to be on Dave's podcast to talk about messaging, which is what I do in my business in the B2B marketing space. And so we're talking about messaging, kind of talking about all the usual stuff. And about halfway through, Dave just sort of mentions that he journals. And so, of course, instantly I just latch onto that. And I'm like, wait, tell me about your journaling practice. And Dave's like, oh, no one's ever asked me that question before. And so we got on this conversation about journaling. And then we kind of got into personal growth and all of the things that we both did behind the scenes of our businesses just to stay sane as entrepreneurs. And it was such a delightful surprise, just one of those conversations that are so fun and really light you up. And you realize that you've met a kindred spirit when you didn't realize it. So on his episode, it was actually before I had launched this podcast. And I was like, you got to get on my podcast and talk about all of, your personal growth and all the things you do. So he agreed to do it. And we recorded this episode. Now, what you won't hear, which is on the cutting room floor, was in the beginning when I was talking to him and I was like, hey, Dave, just to be sure, are you afraid of, are you cool with us getting a bit woo talking about spirituality? And he's like, yeah, bring it on. So we kind of cover a lot of ground in this conversation. We talk a lot about his business and things that he faced, the struggles of deciding to make that first leap and then committing to a business and growing and all of that. But then we get into some of the things that he has found really helpful in his own journey as an entrepreneur, like exercise and being in nature and journaling and lots of good stuff. This is a really, really fun conversation. And if you had heard of Dave and never met him before, I would say this is a pretty good view into what a great guy he is. And there might just be some tips or techniques or some things that you might want to try coming out of this. So I hope you enjoy this really fun conversation with me and Dave Gerhardt. Welcome to the Emma Stratton Show. This is a podcast that's all about sharing unconventional advice that will inspire you to create a business that reflects your true self, so you can experience greater freedom and abundance in your work and life. And I'm your host, Emma. Well, I'm super excited that we get to talk about this. I'm excited to dive into all the things. Just a question. When we spoke last, you mentioned a quote.
Sure.
What was that quote?
Let me see. I actually wrote it. I wrote it in my notes. Let me pull it up.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is a vehicle for personal development.
That's right.
I don't know where this is from, but I have 3. Entrepreneurship is the ultimate personal development program. Building a business is a personal growth vehicle masquerading as a capitalist pursuit.
Hey, I like that.
Yeah.
I actually really like that.
Yeah.
So
I can't. I don't know where that's from, but
someone said it. Yes.
Sure.
Someone said it, and
we're all copying each other.
We're all copying each other, right? There's just the same truths going around being said in different ways. But that one is part of the reason why I started this podcast. I wanted to explore it because that was exactly my experience. So I would love to hear from you. how has that been your experience in the past few years as you've started and grown a business? How have you discovered it to be this vehicle for personal development?
Well, I think first for me, it starts with just kind of like rewinding back to how I got into this position of entrepreneurship in the first place. And so I was um, a marketing exec at a couple of startups, and both of those companies end up getting acquired. And I did well financially, not enough where I could basically stop working forever, but I've done well enough where um, I'm in a different place where like before it'd be like, oh shit, like I need to put $1,200 into my car, like that's gonna stress me out. And so like I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore, and I live a very comfortable life. But I was doing well enough where I think after those companies got acquired and I was trying to figure out like, well, what do I want to do next? I kind of had this, now that I look back at it, 2-year period of wandering
Mm.
where I was doing consulting, doing advising. I invested in a couple of startups. Maybe I just kind of wanted to do that path, advisor, consultant, investor, be involved in marketing. I was writing content. I was creating things. I started this community. I was kind of making videos there. I started a golf podcast. I talked a lot about
You did.
personal development and working out. And I kind of, I've never shared any of this. I signed up for I signed up for piano lessons. I signed up for guitar lessons. I signed up for a photography class.
Oh my gosh.
I got into running. Like I just did all these things. I got into all these things, and there's kind of nuggets of that. Like I've been into music my whole life. I used to play in a band in high school, but I wanted to like kind of take my skills in each of those areas to like actually be legit. And so I just kind of was exploring around and around, and then eventually ended up making. Long story short, is I ended up making Exit 5 now my main thing, right? And what I see now is that period of wandering, was amazing. I look back on it with fondness now because I'm like, oh, you little boy, you were you were just lost, But you gotta, it's like it's almost like dating in some way, where if you don't date a bunch of people, I'm lucky to have met my wife now, but it wasn't, without meeting a bunch of other people before that to realize like, oh, this is my person, right? And so I think a part of that, but it it wasn't until now that I see I've been 2 years in building this business, and I'm like, man, I would have been selling myself short if I just did a, hour or two of consulting calls a day, and then, played guitar and went for a walk in the woods. And I feel like now, this, to tie this back to the entrepreneurship and personal development story, is like I'm 37. I have a long way to go in my life and my career, but hiring a team, building a business, solving challenges, solving problems, being creative, winning and losing together as a team, figuring out how to grow and scale a business. I kind of box myself as the like, I'm a B2B marketing thought leader on LinkedIn. And so I have to, that's my identity. And that was what I was kind of burnt out on. But building my own business now has, yes, it's in the space of marketing, but I see myself more as an entrepreneur who's building a business. And wearing that hat has helped me grow my muscles as opposed to, letting them atrophy in what should be the prime of my career. And so I feel like I'm doing great work. I'm doing it with a team. I'm doing it with people. And so when I think about entrepreneurship and personal development, I'm like, oh, well, none of that would have been possible if I didn't decide to spend a bunch of money and hire a bunch of people and basically burn the boats. Obviously I didn't put myself in a position where I would be screwed if Exit 5 didn't fail. But we decided to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on payroll and people, when I very easily could have just done a solo business where I was going on that path. And I feel like I've grown so much in the last 2 years since deciding to invest in this business, personally, professionally. I'm learning new skills, and I'm having a lot of fun. And so that's kind of how that part came together.
Well, I mean, the 2 years of wandering actually sound really good to me. I mean, so I'm like, I'll take the wandering and the walking in the woods and playing guitar and doing a couple hours of work along the way. And that's really more about what my soul is all about. Like that's
Sure.
totally my vibe. So
Sure.
you investing in people and building a business, to me, I'm like, wow, that's really going all in. That's taking a risk, that's kind of jumping without being sure of the nets there. Something that I have found is that the entrepreneurial journey often sheds light on areas of ourselves, yeah, of ourselves that we need to either change or grow or even heal.
Mm.
Like through the challenges of, growing a business, the new things that you're faced with often reveal a part of you that you're like, oh, okay, I need to change this. So for me, just an example from me, when I first decided to go on my own and start my own business, I freaked out. I had so much fear, and I realized after a couple years that I had a scarcity mindset. Like I had money mindset issues that I didn't really know I had. I mean, I was always kind of cheap. I had like aspects of it. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of cheap. I'll like wear that old fleece forever. But it wasn't until I had a business and you had to, make your own money and invest in things that I was like, oh, I have issues here. And I ended up, addressing them, doing mindset coaching, etc. So I was just intrigued. I mean, to everyone on the outside looking at you, Dave, they're probably, oh, Dave's perfect. He's got it nailed. He's got this awesome business. Like everything he does is a slam dunk. So is that true? Or have you come up across any personal like, oh, I might need to look at this?
Is that true to people? That feels nice if that's true.
I
I don't
think
think
so.
that.
I mean, I can't speak for everyone, right? I cannot speak for everyone. I'm sure you've got
Yeah.
haters, right? I'm
Oh, yeah,
sure
of
you.
course. But well, most of the haters are people who don't actually know me, which is the best part about it.
Yeah, I think the people that know you, but I think a lot of people kind of quote unquote know you from your work. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
someone who's just known you from your work until
sure,
recently. And
sure.
yeah, you look like you're nailing it. So help us all realize that there's still things that you've had to work on. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, so what I guess it's hard to say because I feel like a lot of, knock on wood, I haven't stumbled a lot in building this business, but I think there's a lesson in there, which is like the business that I've built now is on the back of of basically everything that I've done since 2009 when I kind of started a real career. And it's not like I used to be a school teacher or I was a small business owner. Like I started my career working in marketing, and it's what I've done for 15 years now, and then I made a business out of it. And so a lot of that has been building along the way. And I kind of came up in this era of social media, of content. And so since early 2000, early 2010s, I've been writing about marketing and what I was doing in my job online. You're part of that circle, where you can have a blog, you can have a newsletter, you can be active on Twitter or LinkedIn. And I think that's been an incredible part of this piece, right? And so I I've always built on that. And so it's not like I didn't make a crazy jump to like go and, go start some like new business in a new industry. Right. But I did make a mistake. And the mistake that I made actually was I should have bet on myself earlier.
Yeah.
And I was the CMO at a company called Privy, and Privy in June of 2021 got acquired by Attentive, which is a e-commerce company. SaaS product. And I got to Privy. I left Drift after 4 years where I was VP of marketing. And that's kind of where that's the brand that I guess I made my name at, where that company grew really fast. They became known for their marketing and brand. I was a part of that. And so I got a lot of love. And basically my career grew like as that company grew. And then after 4 years, it just was the right time for me to leave and do something else. And so I went to Privy. While I was there, I started building my Patreon. I started Exit 5, which is at the time was called the A List, and it was on Patreon, where basically I started my own podcast where I would share stuff behind the scenes, and it was private and you could pay for it, right? And that was going really well. Small side project. I'm CMO at Privy. This is fun, right? But then actually June of 2021, Privy gets acquired, and the the people over at Drift gave me a call, and they were like, "Hey, we want you to come back." And it was kind of one of those things where it was like a relationship that I was in where, your ex-lover is like, come back. We need you. We miss you so much. And it feels really good in that moment. And you're like, yeah, you know what? You do need me. Right.
I
Right.
knew it. I knew
I
you needed
knew it.
me. You'd be
I knew
nothing
you
without
needed
me.
me. Right. And so I went there and I said yes to doing that. And I think pretty quickly in joining back there, I was like, shit, what did I do? Uh, and this is no disrespect to anyone that was there. It was just like I had gotten out of there and I had built something on my own and I had done well on my own. And now all of a sudden I'm back in this, it almost felt like, being back in your high school again or something, right? Except the challenge was like they brought me in to basically kind of do a solo thing where I would just work with the founders pretty closely on the brand. But that seems really good on paper, but then you piss everybody off internally when like you feel like you're stepping on the CMO's toes and this other person on the marketing team's toes. And so I went back thinking I could just be kind of like this, copywriter, creator, and I wouldn't have to have any meetings and I could kind of be solo creator inside of this company. Well, when the company has hundreds of employees, you're gonna, you can't just be like, and here's the new deck for the company narrative. And everyone's like, wait a second, where did he do that? Who did he, what? And so my days ended up being like filled with, messages from like, hey, we need to have a meeting about this. And I'm like, whoa, this is not what I wanted. And I think that was just a lesson of like, damn it, I really had this moment pretty quickly where I was like, I should have just let the privy thing ride out and I should have just bet on myself. And I think despite having, 4 to 6 years of pretty good success in marketing and even I had built up my own thing with Exit 5 at the time. It was doing close to $10,000 a month in revenue. So I absolutely could have quit and just done that on my own without worrying about where the revenue is going to come from. But I still had that fear of like, can I go out on my own though? Like, what about how am I going to get paid? And I was already making 100 grand a year from it, right? And so it was like, it just never ends, right? It's how am I going to get paid? What about health? What about health insurance? Like
Yeah.
so many of these things that I see now and I'm like, those are just silly limiting beliefs. Those are excuses. And I think you need to just take that pill and swallow it and be like, all right, I'm on my own now. I have to figure this out. And I was kind of like half in, half out. And so that was the biggest mistake that I made. The other thing was really just going for too long on my own. And I fell into this solopreneur narrative and I'm bragging about how much money I'm making and how little I'm working and yada, yada, yada. And there's a whole movement online about like, 4-hour work week, essentially,
Sure.
and I love some of that stuff. I apply a lot of that to my, days now. And trust me, I'm not working 100-hour weeks and, I live a nice life still, but I kind of fell for that. And I felt like I needed to basically be that person who was like anti-work. And that was such a negative mindset. I think I was coming out of like a funk kind of also in COVID. And it was this weird time to be, I guess it was like a weird time to be interested in capitalism in some ways. It was like, is it okay to make money? Is it okay to grow your business? Or do I need to just like shut everything down and just like, be do something to give back and I'm not doing meaningful work. There's doctors that are saving lives and my kids'
Yeah.
teachers are doing this crazy stuff during the pandemic and they're getting paid 50 grand a year. And here I am like, writing about B2B marketing and this is my life. And I had this like existential crisis. And so it's less about did I do something that failed and more of just this like identity crisis. And I was like, am I going to go to my grave and on my tombstone, it's going to say like, was a great B2B marketer.
Yeah.
And that was like the biggest issue for me. And I needed to figure out like what my identity was and where to go. And I've had a lot of peace with it now since then, where it's like, you know what, we all need to have jobs. We all need to create freedom and financial freedom for our families to the best of our ability. And this job in marketing, yes, is marketing saving the world? It's not. But this job in marketing, you know what it allows me to do? It allows me to be an amazing husband and father and be present and be active in my local community and volunteer and support small businesses and be a good community member. It's given me the means to be able to do that. And there's only so many things you can control in life. And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't need to be my identity. This is like how I generate income. And it happens to be something that I'm good at. And it happens to be something that is fun. You know, that like Venn diagram of like what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, and where you can get paid.
Yes.
I think that's so important, right? Because like, yeah, would I love to just be like walking in the woods all day? And yes, but like you need to make money.
See, I knew it. I knew you would want to have the life of walking in the woods.
yeah, absolutely. Trust me. Trust me. If I had more money than I do right now, I would be doing that, right? But and so but also like there's just something like I was just sitting in my office all day. My kids had no idea what I did, and they didn't. I think it's important for them to see me doing work and to see me building a company and to see me doing things. And so I just kind of like, I finally escaped that mindset and I went all in on Exit 5, and it ended up being the most amazing thing ever, because that's the thing that has allowed me to be like, yes, maybe I came up through B2B marketing, but we have a team now. We have 6 people. I think we can get to 10. I think we can build a $10 million business. And I see the downstream effects of that. It's not just like, oh, look at this guy talking about B2B marketing, but like, we've created jobs for people who were miserable at their prior job. And now, you know, one guy on my team is like, I'm having so much fun in my career. My job has meaning. I'm having so much fun doing this. Like, thank you. This is an incredible opportunity. Somebody fresh out of college who could have gone to work at a big company is just crushing it inside of our company. And just being around other people, you know, you know what I'm trying to get at? Like it's creating. So I think we're meant to create with each other. And so it happens to be B2B marketing. And it's not necessarily that I made this big mistake, but I think I wasted so much time getting caught up in this like identity crisis, as opposed to like embracing it and understanding my real purpose in life and seeing where this fits in the bigger picture.
I personally believe that the entrepreneurial journey and the life journey is a spiritual journey. And I read a quote the other day that kind of describes spirituality as really just the process of becoming more of who you truly are, which I think it makes it more accessible when you think about it that way. And
I love
what you
that.
just described actually is something that you healed. And I think it was this the identity. And I can relate to this as well, as like I'm a thought leader on B2B marketing. Like, people ask me what's their favorite companies doing messaging right now. Like, this is me. I think it sounds like you were wrestling with that kind of restrictive identity. You had outgrown it, Dave. You'd gone beyond it, right? But you were
Yeah.
still in the old identity. And then you finally got to this point where you embrace this new one as like a team builder
Yeah.
and providing opportunities for others. And that's amazing. You wouldn't have experienced that if you hadn't outgrown the old identity. And I think that's super cool.
Yeah. And I see a bigger path now. I see like I'm creating a business, I'm creating a company. I see the value beyond, you know, having hot takes about B2B marketing. It's like
God, I
we're
hate hot
solving.
takes.
Yeah, I love a
I
hot take.
can't stand hot takes.
You won't believe Google Gemini dropped the most explosive update in the history of AI. Watch this video now. Uh, but you know, it's like, yes, B2B marketing is a thing that we're doing, but like we're solving so many challenges. So it's like, oh, we had this challenge of like, I was the face of the brand. How do we evolve around that? We did an event 2 weeks ago in Boston, and like half of the people at the event were like going up to Danielle on our team and being like, I read your news. Nobody even like, it was just this crazy thing. Like, nobody cares that I'm here.
Great,
This is
right?
amazing. There's other people, and that feels so damn cool, right? Or like, you know, I was traveling this week. I was in North Carolina, and we did an event. We did a virtual event, and Dan, who's our COO, texted me, and he's like, "Just want to let you know, there's 720 people live on this webinar right now, and you haven't done a single thing for it."
It's
And it's
amazing.
like, but we figured that out. It was like the process of figuring that out, and we've done events, and we're creating new content, and we're figuring out ways to grow. It's like, forget that it's B2B marketing. It's like, it's this problem solving that is super fun, and that is filling my bucket. My wife and kids and I, my daughter learned this at school. They say, what every night when we sit down at dinner, we do what dipped your bucket, what filled your bucket.
Mhm.
And so everybody
Good.
goes around and says something. So I love that term. But it's filling my bucket, like building this company. And yes, it's in a space that's marketing and I definitely see a lot of value in it. I think, you know, I've never said this publicly, and so I don't want people to take it the wrong way and be like, oh my God, look at this privileged asshole, poor guy. But I think also during that time, it was like not the, not a lot of not a lot of love for the male, the white bald male tech bros, and so it was like, which I'm not complaining about that, right? Like we've had it easy. I'm not saying that as a big deal. We've had it very easy. Please don't take that the wrong way. But like on top of all those things, it was like, oh, look at this guy, marketing guru, classic male tech bro. Like, I am a male. I do work in tech, but if you knew me personally, you'd actually be like, that's not who he is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that stuff eats at me inside. And I try to not. I say to my wife all the time, I'm like, I couldn't imagine being actually famous and how fucking miserable that would be,
Right.
because like I'm just a marketing guy, and like the way people will try to dunk on me sometimes just because I'm like, could you actually imagine being like Taylor Swift or Justin like if you've ever watched any of those documentaries, like all those people have crazy serious like understandably so mental health problems, and I feel that in the tiniest way, and I don't want any sympathy from anybody, please don't take this the wrong way, but I think it was like that was also a part of it too. It's just like, oh man, like not a good time to be like, look at me, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm
Right.
building my marketing business. Everyone's like, shut up, man, the world is crumbling.
Right. Yeah.
And so
No.
that's a factor in it. And so I think a big thing for me has been also like the brand, we're building a real company, which is Exit 5. It's not the like Dave Gerhardt show, right? Like
Yeah.
I love Gary Vee, but I'm not trying to be Gary Vee in like the face of all of this. I want us to cross the chasm of like, maybe people who followed me from Drift or whatever, and we're seeing it now. I want more people to know Exit 5 than Dave, and that's an intentional decision, and that's been a fun part of like solving this problem.
Yeah, no, that's a huge problem to solve. I mean, it's something I experience as well on a smaller scale. All right, so let's talk about.
Wait, say more about that. In what way?
Well, I think, I am known in LinkedIn. I have a small, kind of circle of influence, and I'm all about messaging for tech companies. And that's, I started my journey. That was how I started my business. And it was different for me because I didn't come from tech. I I was an outsider coming into a new industry. It was a woman, brown skin, all those things where I had like imposter syndrome, all these things I had to overcome. And then rose up in it. And now I'm the voice of B2B, messaging, a voice. I have a book. But, this podcast is me. Like I've outgrown. That is just a small part of me, right? I'm more. So my company Punchy, it's similar. It's like it's punchy, but it's Emma Stratton, And so that is something that I also experience of like being kind of perceived, having an identity as one thing, but really wanting to expand that. And so I'm doing this podcast and I've started a Substack and I'm like, well, I said to everyone in my newsletter, I'm like, I've launched something, a podcast and a Substack, and it's not about messaging. I'm like, let me be clear,
Yeah,
like, hey, it's about personal growth and
I love that.
spirituality and mindset. And really and I think you did it as well, right? It's you follow the heart's calling. And sometimes you wander and sometimes you don't follow it and you go back to the old job. For me, it was
Yeah.
like I got an in-house job, and it was like the second I stepped in, I was like, what have I done? It was like
That's
day
what I
one.
just said, right? It's the same thing.
It was like, what have I done? And it's like, this has been designed to smack me in the face and get me
Yeah,
back on track, right?
absolutely.
So yeah, but let's talk because this is how we first started
Wait, can
bonding
I can I
about.
just can I just
Yeah,
build on one thing you said, by the
yeah,
way? I also
please.
think like maybe you came up in messaging and whatever, but I think I've had a similar thought, which is like we're all people, right? We're
Sure.
humans, and so I've met so many like you and I are connecting, right? Like I've met so many interesting people, humans, through marketing. And so like there's lots of other stuff for us to talk about. We're interested in this, we're interested in this thing or that thing or family or kids or spirituality or personal development. And so like I also have learned like actually no, Dave, this is you going deep on this marketing thing actually allows you to connect with lots of people. I mean, I've met people from literally all around the world.
Mm.
So I just got to try to reframe how I think about it, and it's healthy to do that. I've met people from all around the world through marketing that I don't know if I would have met otherwise. And so like I think it's amazing that you've taken your kind of niche in B2B messaging and you're like, you know what? I'm going to use that to talk to people about something that's not marketing. And I love that. I think it's a great idea and a great approach.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's nice to hear that, especially when I'm in early days, but we'll see. So we originally sort of kind of started talking about these subjects because I asked you about your journaling practice, and you're like, no one's ever asked me about that. So I want to hear about kind of like your favorite activities or rituals or practices, personal development things. Like, what do you do to keep you sane, to keep you motivated, to keep you calm? Like, what are some of your favorite things that either you've done or you're doing right now? I always love to know what people do.
I'm so happy. I'm so excited to like people care about this. This is so exciting to talk about.
I think they do because I think we're
And
all, we're
yeah,
all in this, we're all trying to figure it out and
yeah,
feel
yeah, yeah.
peace and all that. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Um, well, so I've always, for me, the number one thing has always been physical activity in some way. And I think when I was younger, I did it because I guess I had to. In college, I was an athlete, roughly speaking, and you have to work out. And now I work out for the physical benefits, of course, but the mental benefits. And so I usually work out in the morning every day. I do it every day because it makes me feel amazing. And so why would I not want to do it every day? I don't like the thinking of like, well, I do, I train Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so it starts with some type of physical activity for me. Usually that's weightlifting in some form. And then I either hike or go for a run every day. The biggest thing though there is it has to be outside. Especially when I spend my day on a lot of meetings or stuff like this or Zoom calls. There's something just about being outside in nature that is amazing. And the concept of like, forest bathing, or if you look that up or any of those things
Totally.
is
Yeah.
100% real. If I wake up and I'm in my wife actually just told me the other day, she's like, the other day you were being such an asshole. And I wanted to just say to you, like, did you go for a run yet? Because I was like, oh, please, if you didn't go for a run yet, just go for a run so you can come back. And that is literally, I feel it in my life. And so if I wake up and the first thing I do is open my laptop and I open up Slack, like I'm going to be grumpy Dave, not on purpose. And so I got to have loads of physical activity. Like I'm like a dog in some ways where like I need to just get tired out. And I feel like this is a hack for my mood. It's not just about the physical results. Obviously I'm super jacked. No,
Totally. Look at those guns.
totally. But it's really about the mental, and it helps me sleep and it helps my mood. And so every day I try to get outside as much as I can. I try to walk, run, hike, and lift. The second thing that I do is I try to read every day. And this is not easy because reading is still super boring to me. And I often like will find myself putting myself to sleep. But I find that, I mean, you have loads of books on your bookshelves behind you. There's just something unbelievable about like getting inspiration, getting unstuck, the discipline of like, reading something for 10 minutes. There's just so much like pattern matching. And it gives me, especially I would like to consider myself a creative individual. If I'm not reading, I am not, my creativity is low.
Yeah.
And so I got to read at some point. I usually try to read something work related during the day, and then at night I can't read any of that. And so I usually lay in bed and read fiction. And then I started this process of journaling probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I just basically every night before bed I write down what happened that day.
Simple.
It's simple and it's amazing because I have, I should give you a picture, but I have 8 years of journals, and I like to just go back and I can literally just open a journal and I can go and say, okay, today is, Friday, March 21st. What was I doing last year on this day? I could tell you exactly what happened. Some days are longer than the others. Some days I'm super tired or I'm traveling or I was out late or whatever. Some days, if I had a bad day, I might write 3 pages and instead of one or something like that. But I keep a log. The minimum is a log of what happened that day. And then the maximum is like a log of what happened that day. And also like, I had a terrible day at work, this thing happened and it's stressing me out. And I just feel like the act of getting that out. And so I do it to keep a log because I think it's fun, especially as I grow my family. And then I also do it to get the demons out of my head, which is an incredible exercise, actually. You just got to write it out.
Yeah.
And then I also have separate from that, I keep a work notebook because I found that my like journal, I don't want to have like the thing. It's not the place for like my to-do list and things I need to do. And so it's an amazing exercise to have, I love like Post-it notes, but I just have like a Moleskine notebook and that's kind of my work notebook. And so usually before I go to bed at some point, I just sit down for 5 minutes and I write out all of the things that I want to get done tomorrow or the things that I need to do, or the things that are in my head. That is an amazing activity because it just gets it out of my head and my sleep and my stress is so much better because I've now put it over there and it's in this book and I'm going to get to it tomorrow. And then I know between that and my calendar, I can just kind of wake up and do my thing. I also use my calendar pretty religiously. I'm not as crazy like as some, you see some entrepreneurs post in their calendars like, 12 to 12:30 lunch. Like I don't put
No.
lunch on my calendar. You better believe lunch is going to happen regardless, but I do like to schedule out, intentional things. And then I usually in the mornings from 9 to noon is kind of like my no meeting time, unless I'm doing a podcast with someone great on a Friday. But like 9 to noon is typically like, I like to save that for working time.
Sure.
And then if I need to do meetings, I will try to do meetings from 1 until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. What else is in my personal toolkit?
So I love running, hiking outside.
Sure.
I'm the exact same way. I
Sure.
love running. I hate the treadmill. I hate being
Ugh.
inside. Like it must be outside. So do
Listen, the
you,
treadmill is worse for you anyway. The
is
treadmill
it?
is not like yeah, absolutely. The treadmill is not like a real run. It's moving for you. And I feel like for me, 50% of the benefit of running is being outside.
It's
And
being
so
outside.
I don't
Yeah.
care what the weather is. You're in Oregon. Obviously, you got, crappy weather too. I would rather go for a run when it's 20 degrees and pouring rain out here in Vermont than I would go on the treadmill.
Yeah. I'm totally with you. So I was going to ask you, like, would you describe anything that you do as spirituality, right? And that's, maybe it's the category, the name
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
resonate, right? It's like, and I've had people, so when I first talked to other people in business and I was like, oh, I really want to start talking about, this spiritual growth behind business growth. And they're like, oh, don't use the word spirituality like that. That's a bad idea. But I've just decided, screw it. I'm going
Yeah.
to use that word. But I
Yeah.
believe that being out in nature is a spiritual experience.
Absolutely. I would high five you through the screen if I could. Yeah. I talk to myself out there alone.
Mhm. Yeah.
I
Tell me
people
about
think
that.
I'm nuts, but I can't. If I'm going for a hike or run in the woods, there's no headphones.
No.
The excitement of it is just whatever happens in my thoughts out there. And then I have this hike that I do pretty much every day after I drop my kids off at school. And when I get to the top, it's this beautiful view of Lake Champlain here in Vermont, and you can see all out over the town and everything, and it's unbelievable, especially when it's clear out. And I think especially in this world of AI and tech, I really try to be intentional about this, but I like to touch the ground, touch the trees. I say a little like thank you. I'm not a religious person, but I just like to when I'm on top of that little mountain, I like to zoom out and think of like I literally picture my brain like I zoom all the way out like in a movie, and like I think of myself standing in Vermont, which is one of us, which is a tiny little state in the United States, which is a part of the country, which is a part of the world, and I just zoom all the way out, and it's like really trips me out to be like, dude, nothing matters.
Yeah.
like you're a tiny little peanut here, and I just like also say thank you for nature, for being alive, for being healthy, for being happy, and just like a moment of gratitude and appreciation. I did it recently. I was playing golf in North Carolina at this amazing place, and I'm just walking down this one fairway, and the sun is shining on my face. It's, 65 degrees out. And you feel that, you feel the sun on your face. I just took my hat off and I just touched the ground. I was like, I hope nobody sees me doing this, but I'm like, I just touched the ground. I was like, thank you. I live an amazing life. I'm just happy to be here. I do stuff like that all the time. And I don't know if it works. I don't
It
know if
does
it does
work.
anything,
No,
but
that's amazing, Dave. I mean, that is, first of all, I love that you touch the ground. I think that's beautiful. I think gratitude, on on a s- on a woo woo level, right? When we express gratitude, we attract more of the good, more of the things we're
oh,
thankful
I
for into
love
our
that.
lives.
I believe that. I believe that too. And I try to other things that I do is I just think like it's very easy to get caught up in the routine of life. And so I really try to, especially like my wife and I are both at home. We see each other all the time. We could be in the same house and we could go a whole day without talking to each other, but I try to go out of my way to be like, no phone, no computer. I love you. Make a joke, look each other in the eye, like hang out, have conversation again, right? That stuff matters so much, those connections. Um, have you ever read this guy Anthony DeMello?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, he's like some spiritual writer. I figured you would know because
I don't know, Mom.
spirituality.
And to be
Anyway,
clear, when I say spiritual, like I'm not saying religious. I hope that's
that's
clear,
that's
because
fine.
I'm with you. I'm non-religious but spiritual. So Anthony DeMille, did he write what book did he write
He's
books?
got this one book called Awareness and this other book called The Way to Love, and a bunch
Okay.
of other tech bros have recommended them, so I read them, right. But he said, and I just read this last night. I pulled it up on my Readwise, and he talks about basically he's like the feeling understand like there's the feeling of when like you do something good and people say nice things to you and applaud you, right? There's that feeling, and then there's the feeling of like you just had lunch with like your best friend and you're just giggling and making jokes and the whole time you're not thinking about your phone. There's like those two feelings, like which feeling is better? It's always that second one. It's
Yeah.
that like soulful like connection feeling, right? And I just said to my wife the other day, I came back and I just was like playing golf with 4 or 5 people in North Carolina, and I wasn't doing work. I wasn't on my phone. We were just like a bunch of guys with similar lives and similar hobbies hanging out together, just being around humans and connecting. Like that stuff is so underrated. And so that's just another thing. So yes, bringing that gratitude, and I need to do it. I also believe in speaking things into existence. Like,
Ah, yes.
I think that negative thoughts like drive your, even if you have to fake it, but like I in my little journal, sometimes I have these things like little mantras that I write, and I just
Yeah.
months ago I just started writing like good things happen to me and good things will continue to happen to me.
Yeah.
And I believe that in speaking it to existence, and like I kind of have all these little things. This is really funny. My wife, so I'm a Gemini. My birthday is June 9th. Send me your direct mail, right? But my wife had the newspaper the other day, and she cut this out for me. This is my horoscope. Obviously this is just like a marketer's dream, right? Like the
Yeah.
horoscope. It's not real, but we believe whatever. I like to, so confirmation bias, and so it says this is Gemini, and she cut this out and she gave it to me, and she said it says, "I predict that you will soon have reason to celebrate a resounding success. You will claim a well-deserved reward. You may even shiver with amazement and gratification as you marvel at how many challenges you overcame to emerge triumphant." Um, so just this amazing little like, whether this is true or not, I don't know. But the fact that I cut it out and we have it now, it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think stuff like that is really important.
Yeah, I've leaned on affirmations. I use affirmations a lot. I have over the years. One of the biggest ones for me, and I probably used it, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and it's from a book, The Big Leap by
Mm,
Gay Hendricks. I don't know if you've heard of that book. It's
no.
really good. But the mantra is, every day I expand in abundant success and love, and I inspire others to do the same. Yeah,
Love
every day
that.
I expand in abundance, joy, and love, and yeah, and inspire others to do the same. And I would just, I had it like in the bathroom, and I go to the bathroom, like side of my bed. But it's really important to speak things into existence. When you said that you walk to this point where you have that vista, I have the same. I do a run, and kind of the halfway point. We're in the Willamette Valley where the vineyards are, and it's in this farmy area with vineyards. And you get up at the top, and you just have this beautiful view of kind of mountains and hills, and it's like there's something about that limitless perspective. And I say thank you, but I often speak things into existence at that spot because it just feels like anything is possible when you have this view.
I
So,
love that. I
yeah.
love that. Also, it's just so easy to get. It would be so easy to get to the top and just be like, "All right, turn around, come back
Yep.
down." But I think that's like a metaphor. That's like a metaphor for life. It's like, God, we spend so much time like trying to climb the hill, and then we get to the thing, and we're just like, "See ya." And we're like, "No,
Yeah.
no, 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 hold on, no, no." And so, like, I think it's a forcing function to be like, just take a minute, and appreciate this, and appreciate yourself, and you know. I'm also just a believer in like I believe in the personal development stuff because I think you have to be able to manage your mental health and you are your own person, you are responsible for yourself, you are your own company. I can't if I'm not taking care of how I feel, I can't be a good dad, I can't be a good business partner, I can't be a good husband, I can't be a good teammate. And I've just seen so many, I mean, I'm sure you have too, but you see so many entrepreneurs and founders who end up, maybe building a successful business, but they end up throwing away their relationships and
Yeah.
their career. And a big part of my motivation for building my business now is I want to have both. I want to be a good husband, a present father, and build a successful business at the same time. And I want to make that the narrative as opposed to like, nope, I somebody once told me like, yeah, if you want to be successful, like you got to not see your family, you got to travel, you got to do all this stuff. And I just think that's a bunch of BS. I don't think it has to be that way. I think that's a self-fulfilling prophecy too. And so anyway, my point is just like we only have ourselves, right? And if you don't have your mental health, your physical health, then you can't go do any of the things. And so I don't think it's corny. I don't think it's corny at all to believe in personal development and self-development. Like that is literally the number one thing that you have. And so whether it's a mantra, whether it's a workout, whether it's something like you gotta have your kind of like personal operating system. And then on the flip side of that though, there is this whole, we've gone in this whole culture of like, every morning you got to wake up and get direct sunlight and go in the cold plunge and go in the sauna and, like only eat, raw meat and, don't eat. It's insane. There, I believe in having those, like, I believe in those things separately, but as like, if you can't function without your morning routine, then you're not going to be successful. And so for me, the simplified version of my morning routine is like wake up, go work out, and then the rest takes care of itself. But I don't want people to listen in on our conversation, Emma, and think about like all the nonsense that you got to do in the morning to get this morning routine. You know,
So,
trees
yeah,
are
I
amazing.
imagine you do a lot of hiking amongst trees, right? You're
I
in
do.
Vermont. Yeah,
Yeah.
trees. And have you ever hugged a tree or leaned against a tree?
I've I've never I've never physically hugged a tree, but I love touching trees.
Yeah, touching trees. Yeah, that's
Yes.
similar. So, one thing that I've just come to learn is that, all kind of everything is made of energy. And trees are kind of the ultimate in grounding energy, the feeling of groundedness. If you think about their roots and their sturdiness. And sometimes when you're feeling really like, woo, kind of like touching the tree, leaning against the tree, and really just, yeah, being with the tree, you can feel that like peaceful, grounding energy kind of coming into you. So that's the other thing. Get out amongst the trees.
Yeah.
It's
Well, like,
incredible.
let's talk about the treadmill thing for a second. Like, the woods just smells so much better. Like, you know what I mean?
It
Like,
does.
there's something to that smelling nature, and I'm in Vermont, and so like the smell of like burning. Actually, so this is we moved recently, and I have like a real house in the country now,
Uh-huh.
and the wood stove that we have, like there's a fireplace, a wood stove, that's become our central source of heat in the winter.
It's awesome.
And there was something that so unexpectedly amazing that I didn't understand, and my wife and her dad have and her mom have told me about this because they're Vermonters. But there's something about burning your own wood, chopping wood, making firewood, making kindling, being outside, carrying it in the house, using your hands, making a fire. That is unbelievable. And so part of the ritual now is, well, it's getting warm again, but like building a fire every morning is actually, it's another amazing thing where I'll build a fire and then I just kind of sit there and zone out. And it's my wife and I actually fight over who's going to get
Who
up
gets
and
to
make the fire.
I love it. We have fires outside all the time. I'm
But
obsessed
think
with
about the smell, like just like the smell
Yeah.
and the wood. And so anyway, and especially if everything in life is going to be, technologified and AIified and whatever's happening, you take your shoes off, be barefoot,
We have to.
and I just feel very thankful to be like raising my children in a place where they are getting muddy and dirty and being outside. Then
No.
they can go be on their iPads for hours inside. But we
It's all
we
about that
got
balance.
we got yeah, we got to have that balance. We got to have that balance. Yeah.
Well, I have had so much fun talking, and I love everything. I think my favorite thing that I've learned is that you touch the ground and say thank you. I think that is one of the most beautiful things. And I hope that all of our listeners love hearing that as well, because I think it's beautiful, Dave. So thank you
Yeah,
so
and then
much
there's
for
there's lots of little things.
sharing.
This is a rooster. You know about these?
I don't.
Um, maybe it's a Portuguese, maybe it's a Portuguese thing, but my wife's Portugal. My wife's mother, her neighbor, their friend, she's very spiritual, and she said that these are supposed to be good luck. So maybe if somebody listening to your show, they're supposed to give you good vibes. Somebody listening to your show can tell us, but there's more that I could show you. But just a glimpse of spirituality. I showed you my I showed you my heart. There's the tech bro for you, right? I showed you my horoscope, and I showed you my rooster. There's a lot more
What else have
here.
you
All
got
right,
hiding back
damn it.
there?
I There's some things I can't show you on camera, but
All right. Well, we'll have to get you on another time when we go deeper, when we're ready for kind of the next level, more advanced
cool.
episode.
Thank you. This was really fun. Anytime I can, don't have to come and talk about marketing for an hour, I'm glad to do it. So
Me too.
cool.
Hey, my friend, you've been listening to the Emma Stratton Show. If you'd like to follow me in my writing, you can find me on Substack. Thanks again for listening.